let's talk about the new Valiant.
Yeah.
Right. Your first comic that actually comes out was at C2E2, a little preview edition.
Yes.
A short while later, you have EXO #1, and then 3 days later, the Free Comic Book Day issue.
Yep.
Talk about your rollout since then. One of the things I want to talk about particularly is how, because you're a Valiant fan yourself, how was it this news received among the Valiant fans, who are small in number to start with, but pretty hardcore?
Yes, very hardcore, very, very passionate. So the news was received very, very well from the Valiant fans. They were very excited. They'd heard for that entire period, the 8-year period in which we were, from when we bought the assets to when we released the books, they'd been speculating, they'd been hearing rumors, and we tried to stay very quiet because we didn't want to peak excitement before we were ready.
Sure.
Didn't think it would be 8 years, but thank God we did that. So when we were ready, we started to get them excited. We started to say, look, it's coming, it's going to be great. We started to show them art. We put out the preview books. They got very excited. They've been a huge help. They're our fifth Beatle. They've been going to stores, pre-ordering the books, getting other fans excited, getting out into news outlets. Whenever we have a big announcement, they jump on that news, they retweet it, they Facebook like it. So that's really helpful. It helps people see that this is something exciting.
Sure.
And we've been lucky that everyone's liked the book so far. But we rolled out with what we call the Summer Valiant in 2012. That was 4 titles: Exo Man War, Harbinger, Bloodshot, Archer, Storm, one a month. We had a Chinaman in November. We were very lucky, all of them very well reviewed, among the best reviewed books in the market, all of them the #1 non-Marvel DC book of the month, so we beat Walking Dead, Buffy, Star Wars, one Publisher of the Year at the end of the year, which is I think the quickest ever from launch to Publisher of the Year, 7 months. All the books and all the writers and creators on the books are in the top 10 lists. Annie Cool News gave us Publisher of the Year. And then this year we launched Quantum and Woody in July. We've got Eternal Warrior coming in September with Greg Pak and Trevor Harrison. That's shaping up to be a monster book. And those are the only 2 books we have this year that we've announced. We have a surprise at the end of the year that may be connected to something called Unity, which was a massive storyline back in the original Valiant. But we're not saying much about that yet.
Okay.
But we're being very cautious. One of the things we want to do is make sure we grow slow and steady.
All right. Given that you liked all of them enough to publish them, and were very involved in their development or redevelopment, however you want to say it, have any of the series surprised you to date?
Have any of them surprised me to date? I think, in a way, they've all surprised me. I mean, you want them to be the best they can be, but when I looked at Exo Man War #1 at the end, when we were done with it, it's better than you can expect. It's better than you can hope for. I think it's a great book. I think it's one of the best books that anyone published last year. It's not the best, and there's a lot of people doing great work, but I think it's one of the best books that anyone published in 2012. I think that all the books have surprised me. Harbinger certainly surprised me. It's interesting, I was talking to Josh Dysart, the writer of Harbinger, about 2 weeks ago, and he hadn't realized, I told him, we've done more books than the original Valiant team did on Harbinger before they did a Harbinger arc, and then they changed the status quo, and a lot of people say that's when the book jumped the shark. So we've done more issues now than they did of the same narrative structure, and the fans look at that and they say this is a longer, better run than the original. So that's been really nice to see. But all the books have surprised me. I think they have to. We hold a very high standards up here.
What about in terms of the surprise? What about the creators who came in and told you something you weren't expecting to hear, and you went, wow, that's great?
All of them, to be honest. Not just the creators, but the executives as well. Warren Simon's our executive editor, is fantastic. Rob Venditti came in on Exo Man War, and there's a couple ideas in here that just, we looked at the pitch and we were like, why has no one ever done this? And I can't say what they are because we seeded them in issue 1 and we haven't paid them off yet. We started to in the new arc, but there's a couple things. One of the things that we did do is, for instance, he's a Visigoth, he's abducted by aliens, he's taken aboard their spaceship as a captive. His only chance to escape is to steal their ultimate weapon, this man-of-war suit of armor. So he steals it, returns to Earth, only to find himself in the present day because of time dilation on the ship. And one of the things I've never seen in science fiction is, because he stole the armor and went to Earth, he triggered the invasion of Earth.
Yeah.
Every time you see a story like this, they were already invading, or they've already invaded.
And the hero had to save the day.
And the hero has to save the day. Instead, he caused the invasion of Earth. So it's little ideas like that that are just fantastic.
That's a great example. I I have this written down, so I'm obliged to ask, even though you already said you won't. So what's the story with Unity?
Right, Unity. No, we can't say. We can't say. Unity was a giant. It's considered the best Valiant story. It's a giant 18-part crossover back in the day that involved all the characters, and it really was the tipping point for Valiant when the entire industry started looking at Valiant, and a slew of new fans came in. So our Unity is decidedly not that. It's not an 18-part crossover event where the entire universe comes together. It's something that I think when people hear what it is, they're going to get very, very, very excited, and they're going to say, of course, why didn't we think to do that? Because that's my reaction when I heard the idea.
Good. All right. Well, that's good. The thing you've touched on, though, is the universe concept.
Yes.
And it seems like I've picked up on at least one thing. You just mentioned XO1. I've picked up on at least one thing in XO1 that we're just starting to see pay off right now in current XO.
The Eternal Warriors.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say. But
all right, I ruined it.
That's okay. But are we seeing other elements of this? Like obviously, Bloodshot and Harbinger. There's a lot of symmetry between the two, and then in Harbinger Wars, you see it sort of tying together. What other elements are making this a universe?
So the original Valiant was very, very famous for its very tight continuity. They took what Marvel did and they amped it up. So we have a duty to do that in a fresh way. So we inserted Eternal Warrior into X-Men War. And it came organically, it made sense. He's an immortal, he would be there at the battle that Arak fought, he would be with the Visigoths. And now we're paying that off. There's something like 28 storylines that we seeded in X-Men War.
28?
Something like 28 or 26 that Rob came up with in his initial pitch that will pay off down the arc. But certainly Harbinger and Bloodshot, from issue 1 you can see that the two have a collision course that they're taking. We knew that was going to happen. There are quite a number more in every issue. There's little seeds that we plant. There's escalations of things that we know we're going to be doing. We know, for instance, what Unity is, and that's something that'll pay off. Something we did in the first month of the books. We know what our summer next year looks like, and that's something that I think the fans have been waiting a long time for, that they're going to see the seeds.
What else can you tell us that's coming up?
Well, I can tell you that Quantum Moody's coming up, and I can tell you the Eternal Warrior's coming up. I can tell you that we're excited about a Halloween issue that we're doing for Shadow Man. We've got Miguel Sepulveda doing the art, and he's fantastic. Ryan Hughes did a really cool pop-out cover that gives you a mask that you can wear at Halloween. So that's pretty exciting. The Sex Civil War arc in Archer Armstrong is going to be a lot of fun. We've had a lot of success with the different sects in Archer Armstrong, with the 1% and the Dominion and the Sisters of Perpetual Darkness. So they're all going to be fighting they're going to come together and fight each other in a kind of mad world, or Cannonball Run, or Rat Race story that Fred Van Lente is building for us. That's a lot of fun.
One other question that we've talked about Marvel and DC and the film component.
Yes.
For what they're doing. Obviously, this is a component for you guys too.
Yes, sir.
Talk about what you've announced so far, and
Sure.
where do you think it's heading?
Sure. So we're a little bit different in the way that we handle our film and television than I think a lot of other publishers, in the sense that we are a comic book publisher first and foremost, and even when we have hopefully big movies coming out, we're never going to stray from that. We're always a publisher. And I think that's a mistake some people make, is to start thinking you're a film studio and forgetting that you're a publisher. And I think Marvel does that a very good job of that. They remember that they're a publisher. So we've had 5 projects that we're working on at the moment. We try and be slow and steady. With everything that we do, we want to make sure it's the best possible version, otherwise why do it? So we haven't announced all 5 yet actually, so I teased a little bit. We've announced Bloodshot is at Sony. It's going very well. We've got Matthew Vaughn on board as director. He directed X-Men First Class and Kick-Ass. Jeff Wadlow, who wrote Kick-Ass 2 and directed Kick-Ass 2, was the writer, along with a man named Jason Keller, who's just come on board. Neil Moritz is the producer. Neil did all the Fast and Furious films. So that's a film that we're very excited about. That's the furthest along. Joe Michael Straczynski, who wrote Thor at Marvel and Spider-Man, he's writing Shadow Man for us. We just got the first draft in this week. It's pretty phenomenal. We've got a little bit more work to do on that, but we're very excited about that. Archer and Armstrong, we've got I just realized I haven't announced that yet. So nothing is going on with Archer Armstrong. No, nothing. Harbinger, I can talk about Harbinger. Brett Ratner's on Harbinger as producer, and we've got a script that we're working on at the moment, and I'm pretty excited about that one too. Harbinger's a tough one though, because it's such a character-centric book, and it's so different than everything else that's come in the superhero genre before. So we have to try and find a way to do justice to that concept.
Right.
And that's taking a little bit of time.
Right. And the fifth one?
And the fifth one, no, I can't. I've already said a little bit.
All right. If you were taking a look and you had a chance to talk to a non-Valiant fan, whether it's somebody who read the old stuff or just somebody right off the street,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell them is the reason to read Valiant?
Of everything we do, the most important and the thing we spend the majority of our time on is the stories. So if we're not telling great stories, then we're not doing our job. And I would say to them that you can come here for fresh ideas, you can come here for complex characters, you can come here for storytelling that you won't see anywhere else. I mean, we do things in the books every week that I think our fans say, oh my God, no one else is doing this. It's a more honest look at the superhero genre. You know, we don't stray away from the things that are outside our window right now. And I know a lot of publishers strive to do that, but it feels to me like comics are a little bit behind the way society is. And we're reflecting things that happened maybe 5 or 10 years ago, and we strive to try and reflect the way society is today. So if teen pregnancy is an issue, or if people take drugs at a rave, or if the socioeconomic makeup of society is changing, then those are the things that we want to reflect here. I mean, one of the things we're most proud of is Faith and Harbinger, who is very much the kind of fan that you now see at conventions that you never used to, who is maybe, she's a girl, she's a little bit overweight, but she's also incredibly in love with the genre. She loves to cosplay. She's a huge fan of Joss Whedon.
Her enthusiasm is clearly all worn on her sleeve.
Yes.
She's not disingenuous.
Yes, and you're seeing that not just in comics, but I went to the Anime Expo a couple weeks ago, and you see it there, and it's the geeks have inherited the earth in a way, and she is the embodiment of that, so we're very proud of that.
This is J.C. Vaughn for Scoop and the Phantom Advisory Network, live at Comic-Con.